Okay, part of the issue is that we had the audio set on mute. So, Gary, I'm going to promote you up to panelist if you'd like to speak to the commission. If it's about number 9 Beachmont, we'd request you hold to after the presentation. Okay. Mr. Whalen, I'm going to promote you up to panelist to speak before the commission. If this is regarding number 9 Beachmont, I suggest you hold comments until after the presentation. Hey, David, are you on?
Oh, yes, I can. I got you now. Thank you.
All right, hold on one second. I'm going to promote you over to the panelists and then you can talk to the commission. All right. And David, you've been transferred over. If you can turn on your mic and video. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Whalen.
It's my turn. Okay, great. I just wanted to just give my 2 cents here. I know the project at on Beachmont is to add a garage, which I don't know that I've got a lot of problems with that. My big concern is.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
If this is not, if this is a public comment related to Beachmont, now's not the time for the public we need to go through that agenda item. And then we can issue public comments related to that specific agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought. Yeah,
No,
I wanted to
I
talk
know.
about Beachmont.
No, yeah, then we'll have to wait on that. Okay, I apologize, but that's just kind of the way our procedures are. The public comments that we have, like on the, listed on our agenda, those are for items that are not, those are for public comments not related to the agenda items. When we
Okay, thank you.
When we get to that part, just to let you know, in case you didn't hear it before, but we'll go through a staff report. There'll be questions and answers amongst the commission. And then we typically bring up the petitioner. We go through that and have some question and answers. And then we bring on public comments related to that specific agenda item.
Thanks, Rob. I couldn't hear it before. Just the mic was just turned on, I think.
No worries. No worries. Sorry.
Thanks.
Bear with me 1 second, Chairman.
No worries. You're doing great.
And then Gary, again, I'm going to promote you to panelist. If this is regarding number 9 Beachmont, because I know you do live behind the property, if you can hold your comments till after the presentation. But if there's anything general that you'd like to address the commission on, please feel free to. So I'm going to try to promote you over again. Mr. Herman, are you on? So I'm Chairman, if it's okay. Oh, there we go.
See if he,
Yes.
tell him that he's.
Okay.
Hello. Hello,
Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, I know you're here to talk about number 9 Beachmont. We'll allow that after the presentation, but I didn't know there was anything else you wanted to address the commission on other than the petition for number 9 Beachmont.
No, I want to know if you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay. Is that all
Okay,
right,
we're
Jim?
good. So, sorry about that, everybody. One last question. Is anybody in the audience, I saw there was a new person that has a public comment not related to anything on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. New business number number 9, Beachmont Court. Detached garage height,
Mr. Chairman,
or detached.
I'm going to recuse myself from the conversation for 9 Beachmont.
No problem.
Good evening, Commission. So before you tonight is a petition for 9 Beachmont, which is a detached garage. Just some preliminary information is that this is before the commission because the height of the structure exceeds 15 feet. Our accessory structure code says that anything that exceeds 15 feet needs to go before the commission. So if this was right at 15 feet, they would have just been able to apply for a building permit based off of the code. Being over, since it exceeds that height, it's subject to site plan and community design review. The parcel is located within the SR Single Family Residential District. The lot area is about 27,549 square feet, and the original home was built in 1989. The front yard setbacks are 25 feet. Side yard setback is 12.7, which is 12% of the lot width, and rear yard setback is 20.98 feet, which is 20% of the lot depth. This lot also has a unique lot configuration due to it having 2 rear yards, so it would have 2 rear yard setbacks. We have also received multiple comments pertaining to stormwater and water flow towards the Ramsgate Drive area. So you will hear from multiple people tonight about that, as well as we have some more information later on in the presentation. Also before you, within the attachments, is you have your staff report, the petition application, the site plan, the building construction plans, as well as one email that we received from one of the neighbors. So in front of you right now are the elevations for 9 Beachmont, which is the detached garage. You can see that the height exceeds that 15 feet, and it is, I think it is 21.4 feet on the front elevation, and that is measured from the front side, the face closest to the street. And this it can no longer be approved administratively through us. So that's why it's before the commission. It's subject to that site plan and community design review. And then within that, you can see that they have the right elevation as well as I think the rear elevation, which brings it, I think, to 28 or 20, I think it's 25.4 feet. Yes, it would be 25.4 feet from the ground to the top of foundation on those 2 elevations. But the front, since it's measured from the front face, it's the 21.4 would be the height. They also, Carlos, could you go to the next slide? Thank you. So they also sent in BMP information, and they're proposing to implement a NDS flow well, which will be, it's kind of hard to see, but you might be able to see it better on the dais. It's located directly to the left of that garage. The graphic there depicts the garage, which is going to be a 696 square foot garage. This detached garage is due to their size of the lot. They're actually allowed up to 700 square feet for the accessory structure. So they're just a little 4 square feet below would be too much. They're also proposing adding some more asphalt to connect to that the driveway to the garage, and everything in yellow on there are the locations of the PVC piping that connect from the downspouts into that flow well. Those red arrows are also depicting the grade of how it will slope more east to west where the water is flowing. Also, the storage system that was provided holds about 28.68 cubic feet, and through the calculations that we received, it stated that they were required only 16.8 cubic feet, or 80 cubic feet. So they have some more room for additional stormwater. In front of you is also something pertaining to the driveway, the stormwater concerns. So you can see that everything that's in gray is what was actually existing for the existing driveway. The portion that's in red is the portion of the existing driveway that will be removed due to the garage. The portion that is in blue is the proposed 43 square foot driveway addition. So they're only adding 43 square feet from what was existing to the proposed driveway. And then you can see that there was an existing shed in the location of where that garage is. And with the proposed garage, that shed will no longer be there. Just gonna check through here real quick. I think we did receive those stormwater comments. We received comments pertaining to different properties that are located south of the lot, downhill from 9 Beachmont. And of course, with it being subject to site plan review, everyone was notified with mailings within 300-foot radius of the property, as well as we met with neighbors yesterday to discuss the stormwater concerns, and they are present here tonight to address those public comments as well.
How'd that meeting go?
I think we went well. We addressed the questions, and then they're here before, going to step before the commission to, state their comments and concerns pertaining to the petition.
So I saw the emails and they question a lot about, the previous engineering study, things like that. So what was the conclusions,
I had not been in contact with the person who had sent this email. From what I understand is that the petitioner is here tonight, as well as a representative for the engineering portion of the stormwater as well.
Good. Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions. Obviously, what's of concern is that it exceeds 15 feet, the proposed garage. And so I'm wondering if the reason why it is in excess of 15 feet, that it somehow is meant to match the existing house. And we don't have really any elevations of the existing house to be able to compare, the difference. That, and also it looks like there must be a garage inside the house currently, and what is going to happen to that facade as well. So those are the two main things. I personally, in the future, would like to see actual photographs of an existing house if there's going to be something like an accessory structure being built. Because even though it looks nice on paper, I don't know that that really relates to that house at all, and why there might be, in excess of 15 feet.
Carlos, can you pull up a street view?
Bear with me 1 second because I need to change the screen views. And I would ask one of the petitioner representatives if this is the correct house. I believe it is. Yes. And unfortunately, Ms. Powell, this is the next view on the streetscape goes, and then
Sure.
it gets cluttered. So that's as close and to that house.
So I think going forward, you're going to hear me probably asking for that an actual photograph rather than just street view, so that we can actually see what's going on in this circumstance. So it looks like there is an existing garage on the left side of the structure. And I'm just curious as to what's happening with those doors, if anything. Are we going to a 4-car garage, equivalent of a 4-car garage?
I think that probably best answered by the petitioner. And what we could do is, if we don't have any more questions for Jack or Carlos, we could go ahead and bring the petitioner up. Oh, we ask for anybody coming to the podium, state your name and address for the record too. Sorry about that. Oh, and yeah, turn it on.
Got it. Hi, I'm Brian Shetler, 9 Beachmont Court. Lived there since 2010. Thank you for seeing me today. Thank you for hearing the petition. To answer your questions, nothing is changing with the existing garage. So it really is just an expansive opportunity to be able to have a larger garage storage. Truthfully, one of the main reasons, one of the additional spaces, my young daughters are excited to build an automobile together with me, and we just wanted an extra space to be able to get hands-on and do some STEM kind of work together. But the reason for the height, one, it definitely the intention was to get it to flow and kind of match the very kind of dramatic roof line that exists in the existing house. Also, I wanted the extra height inside of the garage from the interior perspective to be able to have a lifting mechanism there to be able to work on the cars and do that project. And so the 15-foot limitation would have not allowed me to do that.
Great, great. Obviously, there's some concerns with the, the groundwater, the effects to the neighborhood and stuff. I'm curious, and I'm sure this is probably going to be a question for the engineer, but is there any way that the discharge of the detention system could be towards the front of the house rather than towards the back? And if we do ask you to come up here and state your name and your address in front of the podium.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Mark Kilgore, and I am the civil engineer and professional engineer who has prepared these plans. And I believe you've asked if there's any other direction that we could potentially take the water.
Yes.
Let me just take a look at this real quick.
Oh, if we can,
He's just looking at it. He's coming back.
No, there is not really any other feasible place that we can discharge the stormwater due to the existing topography. We can see all the water is, let's see, should I point at something?
Yeah.
Should I, well, on here, we might not be able to see, should I walk up here?
Sure. That'd be great.
Okay, so these are the contours. Up here we see at 680, 678, 676. So these are going downhill, and these it continues to run downhill, and so that's the existing conditions down here. Our work is taking place here, and so it makes sense that we would have to discharge it reasonably somewhere close to our work, and so our option looks like the only option we have is to discharge it somewhere along this rear property line, and obviously stormwater flows perpendicular to contours, so water that falls here is going here, water that falls here is going here. And I understand that there are 3 residences over here, like 1, 2, and 3, just off of the screen. And I do sympathize with these, at least for sure, these 2 residents. I'm thinking this one here doesn't have a problem. These first 2 residents, though, the existing stormwater as it is goes and runs right up near alongside their house, and the second house, their house, and the deck. By the time it comes to the 3rd house, it has a way to turn and then head that way and get away. And so those are the existing conditions. And I want to, let's see, is there any way that we could bring up maybe, Carlos, page 3? 3 of 3, possibly, please. Great, here we are. So if we could look and zoom in at these calculations up here, that would be great, starting with the ones on the upper left. So these are required calculations for any plan that goes before Olivet. And Olivet has an accessory structure coverage calculation maximum requirement, and that is 10% of the lot area. And the existing calculation of the accessory structure coverage percentage is 8.96%. And then in the proposed, again, it's 10%. So there wasn't much room to increase that to begin with. And And then, here are the coverage calculations. The existing imperviousness of the lot is 27.2%. We're proposing to take it to 28.4%. Now, if we could just pan on over here, we're done with those two sets of calculations. We've got two more here to look at. If we could get this brought to about the edge of the screen would be great. A little bit more. Okay, that's great. Okay, so the third set of calculations is differential runoff. And that shows that with the existing impervious, it's got those areas there, times the MSD PI runoff factor. That gets the individual cube portions for the impervious part of the lot and the pervious part of the lot. Those are added together. So that in the existing conditions, we have 1.392 CFS calculated. For the proposed condition, it sums up to 1.406 CFS. That is a differential of only 0.014 CFS. Just to put that in perspective, the typical MSD detention rule is they don't require detention until that differential we get to 2.0 CFS. So we're less than 1% of that amount. This is really almost nothing, but it's not like we're not doing anything to it, because we are mitigating in the flow well system. And so we've got our differential runoff here, up there, 0.014 CFS, times the MSD 20-minute storm, 20 minutes times 60 seconds, gets 16.8 cubic feet. That's what's required. We're providing almost twice that much. And if we could, I think on this sheet, also, maybe it's on the left side, there's a diagram. Right here it is, I'm sorry. This is our stormwater mitigator. And so in this, the flow is going to get captured from the roof drains on the proposed detached garage. It's going to get from all four corners, it's going to get routed around and brought in two sides. So this thing, just like the picture shows. So water's going to go there. Here's the dimensions of it. It's just from the surface of the ground, a little under 5.5 feet deep. And so water's just going to come in here. It's going to be dropped into this plastic chamber, this flow well chamber, and water will be able to come out and sit here in the rocks. It will get a chance to percolate into the ground over time. And if by chance during the very intense storms that this would all fill up, that the infiltration ability of the ground would be exceeded, and the stormwater would slowly rise up, and then we get to here. Then if this is, say, an intake pipe and this is an outlet pipe, which they're the same elevation, then that is going to discharge right here in this very short pipe to this level spreader, which there's a diagram of right here. It's 8 feet wide, and it comes up in this pop-up emitter, and then from the pop-up emitter, it will run into the gravel. That is 1 foot deep, 8 feet wide, 1 foot in depth also. And so that allows water to have a secondary chance to percolate into the ground. And then as that would fill up and start to leave, then it would be in a similar or less condition than the existing. So these stormwater mitigation systems have been in existence for at least 10 years, or around 10 years. Almost all the municipalities have adopted them as a way to be able to make reasonable, small, reasonable additions to your house, such as in this case, the owner wanting to add a detached garage. And if we could go back, please, to sheet 2, that is going to show the existing conditions And in order to be able to get the 10% maximum accessory structure coverage, we are removing the shed, as has been mentioned also. We are cutting in here to this existing concrete and removing it. This roof structure is going to be removed, but it's going to be replaced with one that's about the same size, just a little bit larger. And then this wood deck is also proposed to be removed. So that's to bring us all into compliance, and that is the presentation there. That's the end of it.
I appreciate it. We did a good job kind of going through that. I do, the question that I originally had was just kind of the slope of the driveway. Is there any way to get the discharge kind of, to follow the driveway to the street? If that makes sense. And I wasn't sure, I was trying to look on the contours and I honestly couldn't tell. And so maybe Carlos, if you could pull up the street view.
Sure, I think that's probably not gonna tell us anything as it's, but we can look at it if you want, but I can see a contour right here at 686. And I can see a breaks here right at the setback line. And so, it looks to me like, this water here is going this way. And I don't know if any of it's getting to the street or not, but I would kind of doubt it. I would say it's probably just running over here. Brian, property owner, does that sound right? And then
Everything on the driveway flows.
And then in the driveway, it already heads back this way, right, Brian? So in existing conditions, it's already headed this way.
Okay.
It's already heading down this way to the side.
Well, obviously you guys know that there's a severe water issue, on the other street. So that's why I think everybody's very concerned about even any minor change or difference that will occur, because what they currently have is it's unbearable for some of these residents that are there.
This certainly is not going to make it any worse. It might make it a little bit better, because as we said, in the calculation showed the required volume for us to detain. It's like 16 CFS or 18 CFS, and we're getting like 28. So we're over detaining or over mitigating.
Gotcha. Does the house itself have a mitigation system?
The existing house, no.
Okay.
No, just like these ones here, there was detention didn't even exist with MSD when all of these houses were built.
No, I get that. I just didn't know if that's something that was added or anything like that by chance. So. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's very informative. Does anybody on the commission have any questions for the engineer or the petitioner? Okay, if not, then I'd say, is there anybody in the audience that has a public comment? Go ahead, sir. Remember to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Michael White. I live at 23 Ramsgate Drive. That's my wife Gloria, and our neighbor at 24 Ramsgate Drive, Dr. Shu Chuck. Thank you for allowing us to meet with you. We had the pleasure of talking to Mr. Trejo yesterday and his associate about the plans, and we looked carefully at what you showed here and wish the project the very best. But like you've been talking about, we're worried about the water issue. And it was described to you just a few minutes ago as sort of heading southwest. That's probably what would come about with the substantial rainfall in the future if that garage is built without adequate drainage. Currently in our backyard, 23 Ramsgate, partly behind number 9 and the other house, there's a slope, but if it rains an inch or even 2 inches, it comes down uniformly and it doesn't threaten the house. There's no problem. But 3 years ago, I went emeritus at the Washington University School of Medicine, and I remain active in doing research, etc. So I spent 120,000 to build a library in my backyard, which will be directly behind that garage. We have pictures of it. It fit on the footprint quite nicely, but it's not a shed for tools. I moved 130 books into the library. You'll see it in a second. There's research journals, and I have my Washington University computer in there, printer, and that's where I write research papers, edit books, review submitted papers. So this is directly behind the proposed garage, where currently, without the garage there, like I say, the drainage is sort of due south. If that's there, it's going to head southwest. And on the west end of this library is that mini split, which is just above the ground. And that's what's cooling and heating and supplying really electricity, well, heating and cooling to the library. And I'm worried that that might be jeopardized if there's a 1 or 2 inch rainfall. We heard about the cisterns that are planned, west side, and is it maybe the east side of this proposed garage? But we have you understand the capacity, cubic feet. But if there's a 1 inch rainfall with that sort of area on top of the garage and it's heading into a cistern on the west and it exceeds it, what happens with that water? Is it going to come into my library? That's the question. That's our worry.
Understood. Do you currently have any issues right now with that house under the existing conditions?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Okay.
In terms of water to our house with the way the house is currently, I don't think so, have we?
If we had the 8-inch rain, water.
No, but that's because of gutter clogs around the house. I don't think that slope
Okay.
has ever jeopardized the house
Yes.
being far away and
Right.
that sort of area to accommodate even a substantial rainfall. But this, with it coming into cisterns on the west side, will probably head right back to our library.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Gloria White, 23 Ramsgate. I want to mention that that library is about 22 inches from the easement. And when I went back and looked where their shed is, the library is, yeah, right behind that shed. And so the new garage is going to be right behind our library. If you look at the site plan, and I don't see it right now.
Carlos did put it up on.
Yeah, and you saw it before,
Yeah.
because the library is quite far back on our property, but
Right.
well beyond the easement.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Give me let's hear all the public comments, and then if there's any clarification, because we might have some discussions with that. So is there anybody else in the audience that has any public comments? Carlos, do you check online? I think we got 2.
Okay, Gary, I'm going to bring you up to a panelist. Mr. Morgan, you should be asked to join as a panelist.
And Gary, if you don't mind, make sure you try to unmute yourself and make sure you turn on your video.
Mr. Morgan or Mr. Herman, I believe the unmute button is going to be on the lower end of the monitor on the left-hand side, just in case. Right, Mr. Herman, we're going to go to the next attendee at this time, and then we'll come back to you after Mr. Whalen as you try to figure out. Mr. Whalen, I'm going to bring you over as a panelist.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thanks, David.
I just want to take this opportunity to voice my concerns about the existing problems with the storm sewers on Ramsgate, the lower part of Ramsgate. Especially since the city has been advised that there's a storm sewers that have been deemed undersized for the area. I don't necessarily, I think what they're probably building is going to be wonderful, but I just want to take this opportunity since we have so much water in the area that we address the big concerns around the curve there at Ramsgate. Has there, I know this is not the meeting for that, but has there been any more talk about resolving our undersized sewers?
Carlos, can you answer that?
Yes, and what Mr. Whalen's referring to is when we had a new home built on Stony Side, we set aside some funds or got some funds from the council to do an analysis of some of the concerns that were expressed in Ramsgate. In a bigger view here, the area probably should be or isn't part of a floodplain, but the floodplain analysis never extended further north in there. So these properties along here and in the backside of Heatherwood get inundated with rainfall that comes as far north as Old Bonham in there. And to exasperate that, the MSD infrastructure or the stormwater infrastructure, not sure if it was MSD that initially put it in place at that time or not, is now undersized. So even
Based on the existing houses.
on the undersized, when the area is calculated
Yeah.
and put towards one of these rain events.
With the new standards. that we
Correct.
have.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the pipes are smaller. Mr. Whalen has experience in his home. He's got an inlet along his driveway where it'll become like a geyser because of the pipes being undersized, and there's so much pressure in those pipes, it'll pop up the inlet in there and all that, and some of the neighbors further down too in there. And then the street itself, after, whether it's at the time of the design or after multiple pavings, the curb system is very shallow. So water kind of goes get down the street. There's a pretty good dip in elevation, and a lot of the times it just sheet flows right over the curb. So the curbs also don't control the water pretty much. That analysis and some of that information was brought to our attention, not just by the residents, but confirmed by the stormwater analysis that was done in there. In terms of mitigation efforts, again, that's something that the city council is still considering or taking a look at and from the report, and then what type of funds MSD, would be putting forth in the future in there. There's different recommendations, or I should options for the city to look at within that report. One is, replace all the pipes. That's a big cost in there, and that's a big disruption to all the property owners along that. Others is to do defer some of this, the existing stormwater systems to a different area. So meaning remove this problem and put it over here where there's less of a problem in there by breaking up the pipe system and connecting to a different area, therefore kind of at least alleviating some and managing another. And then there was even discussion about even potentially buying or when a specific house redevelops in there and creating a detention basin. Uh, and but again, those are all cost issues, you know, that in the scope of the city that are up for discussion and consideration in there. But at this point, I don't think we've made any commitments on either of those options.
Are those the options? Those were provided by the engineer?
Those are potential solutions. I should put them that way. Yeah.
That the engineer, provided. Has MSD weighed in on
No.
any of this? I'm sure they've seen the report.
I would assume so. I believe so.
Okay.
It was done more through Public Works. I participated in it because of the new home, but I wasn't the spearheaded in terms of the funding.
Can I
Yeah.
make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
The second option, the breaking watersheds is something that is prohibited. MSD doesn't allow that.
Okay, thank you. What's the plan of attack with this to give Mr. Whalen some?
Right now, I don't have an answer to that, and I don't think that the council is prepared to answer that in any way.
Okay,
And
so it sounds like they need to make public comments at city council.
yes.
Okay.
Based on my experience as in stormwater management, upsizing the pipe system all the way downstream is probably going to be the only way that this is going to be solved.
Thank you.
But with a caveat, with a recognition, yes. But what we do is we just shift that problem to our neighbor. And while we're of course concerned about our residents and such, we're just shifting our problem to somebody else in that process. And there needs to be an effort to try to mitigate this in terms of trying, for people to try to hold on as much stormwater on their properties as they can. In there, the rules and regulations we have in place now, and the reason that this detention system is being put, regardless of whether this building exceeded 15 feet or not, is the city's attempt to try to get these and mitigate it and not make the situation worse.
Exactly.
In there. I mean, and it's very simple, and I do want to note, this is not because of new construction. I can show you a lot of existing homes that have widened driveways, added additions, incognizant that there was a problem in that area. And there, you can sprinkle a couple of new homes throughout there in that basin, but it's minor compared to everybody else that's added.
Yeah, like pavement.
And it's a function because we did not have these regulations in place. So existing homes, like the petitioners that are coming in or those that are having impacts, do not have stormwater detention systems on their properties. And there are simple solutions. Rain barrels, it costs 50 to 90 bucks at Home Depot in there, and you can literally take about, you know, 50 gallons of water off going on, to the property in there. And if you did that at least in 4 parts of your home, at the corners of your home, you're not going to solve the solution, but you start getting a momentum and starting to get that reduction as more and more people apply those in there. It's unfortunate. I don't want to say it's bad planning because I'm sure all these were done for a reason. All these people own these homes in there for not just, it's not just housing, it's homes, but they're also investments in there. And the problem is that, the system, the infrastructure was not in place to accommodate, the driveways, the patios, the pools that we see today in there. And we recognize that, and that's why under our current regulations, or at least for the past 8 years, now we require, detention systems to be put in place.
Well, and the other thing is the size of the storms that are coming in.
And that's, yes, climate change or is a factor. The soils is a factor. The topography is a factor in there, and there is no quick solution in there, and there's no inexpensive solution that I think that the city can take on as a whole.
Go ahead.
I mean, this is like death by a thousand paper cuts. And we see only individual projects, and we're not very good, not Olivet or anybody in particular, any city in particular, we're not very good at looking at the cumulative effects of these projects. So here we have, you know, another garage that's going to increase the amount of impervious surface. That water has to go somewhere. It will go somewhere. If the detention works, great, but all these other factors, and if we just keep allowing bigger driveways, bigger houses, you know, that is less space for water to go into the ground. And so it's a dilemma, in my view, when we're looking at individual projects, because this, you know, the calculations, there's just not that much difference between what's there now and what will be there. So the question is much higher level than that, is are we going to allow this? And I'm torn. I mean, between allowing this, knowing that it's not going to really make that much difference, but in the scheme of things, it's all these little things that add up significantly.
But just as a point of information, it's making actually a little bit better. You know, with the system.
With
that's
the
in
system,
place,
right.
You know,
But
Unless it's full,
good point.
unless the system's full, then it's useless. And then
So,
only,
I guess
we
my
only have
point
to,
is,
Well, it's not useful.
Don, I appreciate your point. I really
If
do.
if it was full, then you would have other problems too. It'd still be running off because
Right.
you'd be able to keep it. So that argument is not correct.
Right. Right.
I just think
Well, I
we,
appreciate your point, Don.
You've gotten a big gain by having it go into the system and getting that retention as well as the flow into the soil at
Right.
that.
You're getting a positive result in
Right.
having this here, not a negative result overall.
Right.
My other point personally is that everybody else has done this under code. Why should this gentleman not be able to do it? Everybody on the street has accessory structures, pools, everything else. The guy before, he has a library there. Why shouldn't this guy have it on his property?
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
Well, thank you for taking my concerns. I just wanted to make them public. And I appreciate your comments.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Well, let me ask this before we go on and have discussions amongst ourselves. We still have one more hand raised, and let's see if we can get that. And then I'd love to jump into this.
Thank you.
Mr. Herman, I'm going to try again. I'm going to promote you to panelist. You have to accept, and then that will bring you the ability to speak before the commission. All right. Now you just need to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, technology works. Okay.
Just for perspective, Mr. Herman, I'm going to let the commission know you're number 26 Ramsgate.
Yes, I apologize. My name's Gary Herman. I live at 26 Ramsgate Drive. I have lived there for, wow, 28 years now. And whether it's climate change or whatever else, I didn't used to have the water problems I have now, but I'm not a civil engineer. I am not a hydraulic engineer. All I can speak to is when it rains hard, and I don't know if it was the current resident of 9, but perhaps it was the previous resident, probably was, but I mean, those people used to pump out their pool and it would all wind up in my yard. And I know the garage is a different issue and I'm trying not to vent, but my concern is because of the soil, because of everything else. You know, the cistern is going to hold, 200 plus gallons of water. And I Googled, and if we get an inch of rain in an hour, an acre is going to get 27,000 gallons of water. And Dave and I are at the bottom of the hill. And as everybody has said very eloquently, the water has to go somewhere. And yes, it may be the death of 1,000 cuts. But every time it rains hard, Dave and I wind up having a conversation about, well, how much water did you get in your basement? And I know this garage may not make it worse, but just based on the experience I've had over the last 28 years in terms of construction that occurs above the hill and what the construction companies do with the dirt, I mean, they don't cart it away. They just leave it there. And so structures get higher off the ground, increasing the pitch of the gradient. And as a result, over the years, Dave and I have both noticed that more and more water winds up in our yards and in our basements and garages. I have an idea of what the solutions are. I can't currently afford them. I mean, Carlos and I have talked about berms. I mean, 20 years ago, I put in a new driveway and retention cistern, you know, to the tune of 20-something thousand dollars, and it worked for a while. But then when other construction up the hill from me occurred and the topography of the ground, the pitch was increased, my cistern overflows. Perhaps it's not as big as 200 gallons.
Gary,
but-
you're getting close to 3 minutes, so just try to wrap it up if you don't mind.
Okay, but again, I'm going to go back to my point. As somebody said, what if the cistern overflows? Cistern holds 200 gallons. The gentleman that owns the lot, you know, I don't know how much permeable, impermeable ground there is, but an acre is going to get 27,000 gallons of water if an inch comes down in an hour. And the vast majority of the property is impermeable. So the water's going to go downhill to us.
Thanks for your comment, Gary.
Thanks.
Okay,
Chairman, I'd like to also note, and
we got one more public comment. There's.
that's correct. I was going to let you know, I'm not sure if that's Mr. Shuk or Mr. Shen, on either number 24, number 25.
Hi, my name is Shu Chuck. I live in 24 Ramsgate Drive, and I've been living there since 1979. Yes, okay. Right. When there was heavy rain, the rain from my backyard is right opposite to number 9 Beachmont. Okay, and when it rains heavy, the water runs down from the back there and goes to the north, to the east part of my house. Actually, and then I have 2 window wells in there, and the water usually seeps in, and my basement on that part there is always wet if it rains hard. Yeah, so I don't think that the water runoff from the new construction up in number 9 Beachmont, I think it'll make it worse. Okay.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you for letting me.
You got it. Okay, anyone else? You can ask a question, sure. Come up,
Miss,
ma'am, ma'am, could you come up?
Gloria White, 23 Ramsgate. What is the maintenance of these cisterns?
Sir, you come up here and explain that, that'd be great.
The question is, what is the maintenance of the cistern, meaning the stormwater mitigation system? The maintenance in it is that the owner of the property, Brian, will occasionally, or he may hire someone, remove the cap and shine a flashlight down into it and see how much sediment has been accumulated. And when there becomes a significant amount of accumulation, typically a property owner will hire a company with a vacuum truck and they will stick the vacuum down there and suck that out and take it away, clean it out like that. That's the maintenance for these things, and replace the cap when they're done.
Good, good, good. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, you're pushing it. If it's quick, come on.
What is the significant amount of sediment?
Getting your steps in, everybody.
the question is, what is a significant amount of sediment? So we looked at the diagram before, and from the cap that will be on the top, which is not an inlet, but just a cap, like it would be on any typical sanitary sewer clean out, although this is a stormwater system. Anyway, and I think the flow well system is well, it's a little bit more than 2 feet deep, maybe 3 feet deep. So I would say if you're looking at something that's 3 feet deep, and if you have maybe 1 foot of sediment in there, I would consider that significant. Certainly when it gets to be half full, then it might be time to get it cleaned out.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for everybody's comments. I appreciate the time and stuff. So,
And Chairman, if you don't
Go
mind, I can also.
yeah.
And this is more for the engineer only because it's reflective of one of the email comments that we received in the design. And it was specifically about the referencing soils in all of that and being very clayish in there. When the system is designed, how much depth is in there? And is there anything done special if it's noticed that the lower soils just aren't as absorbent?
No, there's not any infiltration tests required.
Mhm.
In municipalities such as Kirkwood that encourage filtration tests, their rule is that if there's no infiltration test performed, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I should go up there. Sorry. So, the question again was what, Carlos?
Regarding to, the
Oh, right,
soils infiltration.
if the soil's different, if there's any consideration to that, like the imperviousness or whatever of the soil. So there's no infiltration test required in the city of Olivet. In some of the more stringent municipalities such as Kirkwood, they would like to see an infiltration test, but typically it's not done. And their penalty for it is they just require you to put 10% more volume in the stormwater mitigation system, which we've already got way more than 10% volume. So we're fine for any kind of conditioned soil.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Feel like I learn something new every day. So now let's have some discussions. Tim, you were talking.
So I basically said it. I think that there's obviously a major problem here, and we've known about this problem. We've talked about it many times on this board, and this is not the structure that's going to change that or change it negative, in my opinion. I think that they're doing litigation. It's making it better. It's a small structure, small, more impervious surfaces. I'm not sure if that's a problem on this lot.
Right. I mean, we're not going to solve this problem.
I think we're making it better, though. I don't think this is a negative, is what I'm getting at.
Right. Right.
May not be much of a positive, but it's definitely not negative
Right.
to the part of it.
Right.
I agree with Tim about if we accept the calculations as correct, which I have no reason not to. Seems like it's actually an improvement. As to the issue about death by 1,000 cuts, all we can do is try and mitigate every single cut so that in total it's actually less, because I agree, like, my concern is that every time we approve one of these, it makes the problem incrementally worse. The one concern that got my attention was the possibility of increasing the pitch of the property if, dirt is not properly disposed of or mitigated in some way. So I'm wondering if there's something we can do to ensure that at the end of the day, this actually isn't raising in elevation because that's not captured by this plan.
I think let me ask the petitioner. The plan is not to change the grading, right?
We also want to say that shown on sheet number 2, there's a silt fence going to be placed downstream of any area that's graded. So that's the traditional measure for that. And this project is about as minimal site disturbance as there is going to be. In addition, the stormwater mitigation chamber is going to function during construction in the same way. The water is going to go into that and be captured by that and treated by it.
Great, thank you. Any other further discussion? Oh, that's right, you're out. Teacher?
I did have one question that I wanted to address earlier about, is it the gentleman's library? And there was, could we, Carlos, is it possible we could bring up, I saw one of the slides and I think the library was represented by a blue square or rectangle? Thank you. Okay, there we go. If I could just kind of point out with my hand over here, please. Thank you very much. So this is helpful because it shows the existing contours, the topography of the land, and this being the proposed detached garage addition, and this being the existing library, correct? Okay, and fortunately, in this case, we can see that from the contours, as stormwater will flow perpendicular to the contours, that this flow is headed this way already, and our flow is headed over here, and so it's not even going to touch that. Our water is all going to be discharged over here, and so it does not really have a chance to get to the library.
So that water that you pointed out being discharged can't go south.
Would you please step up to the,
Can't go south, east.
It's gonna head this way.
That's
Southwest.
West.
Chuck's backyard.
This is southwest, and then it's gonna turn and head west. and then
Okay,
Get into the street there on Ramsgate.
but that's into his backyard.
That's the existing conditions, the way the stormwater flows.
That's the existing conditions with,
When this, let me get back to my conflict here.
you could use my microphone.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so the existing conditions of the development here, you know, the required development parameters that exist today are very different than were back then. And if this was to be developed now, there would be required to be probably a significant swale here. This would be, if there was to be an improvement project to improve things for the drainage for these residents here, then this would have to be probably excavated lower and to make the stormwater flow this way. And if this was, you know, if there were no houses here and it was to be redeveloped, there are typically, water is to be directed along the stormwater lots and to the street and there might be inlets along the way. And certainly there are inlets and curb inlets and pipes and closed storm systems once you get to the streets. But, you know, this is a hardship condition that is already being faced by these residents. We're not making it worse. You know, if it could be redone again, you know, their drainage would be headed this way to a swale and be going away. But as I said, the water is coming here and going right along up near and against and sometimes into the houses.
And it currently does that.
Yes,
now.
currently already existing. Does.
Yes, but the point I'm making is by having the cistern on the western end of that garage with a substantial rainfall to begin with, that water is going to drain as it currently drains, and that is down southwest into his backyard. And I'm worried it'll head to the western side of that library as well.
It will head this way. This is where it's being discharged, the red, approximately right here. And as we can see by the contours, that means that this will flow perpendicular to the contours. It'll go here. It cannot travel over here like that. It has to go downhill, straight downhill.
Okay, I'm reassured for the library, thank you. But I still see it as heading maybe into Dr. Chuck's.
If you've
backyard.
never had any problems with flooding to your library, then you shouldn't have any more. I mean, if you do, it's not gonna be anything that we did. You know, I can't promise that there's not gonna be the 10,000-year storm come or anything like that. Obviously, we had a terrible storm in 2022 that broke the records for the area.
Yeah, that was
in
before.
July.
That was actually before I think we made the library. And I pointed out to the architect that there wasn't actually any water accumulation in the area of the library at that time. The worry still is, again, the cistern being on the west side of that garage, could it now drain to the west side of that library?
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know this is a tough subject because we got an existing problem. You know, but I think, like we talked about, we're not gonna be able to solve this problem with one project, especially when it's only a detached garage. I do think too, people want to, use their house, their residence, and do things to it just like anybody else would, would want to do that. And I do think they're mitigating, this issue. They are, in my mind, it is making it better as long as the construction's done properly. And making sure that it tries to match the existing conditions. The only thing I was wondering is if there's any way to spread out the discharge. So it's not coming out at a single point, but spreads out a little bit more.
That's the idea behind the level spreader, to not discharge it at a single point, but to spread it out over 8 feet. And looking at it as it will be on the ground, it will be 8 feet by 1 feet there of gravel.
Right, thank you. Thank you. So is there any other discussion?
So I also want to add that the level spreader is oriented with the contours, so it's going to encourage a sheet flow,
Very good.
not a
Perfect.
point flow.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other further discussion? No? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, motion to approve the petition for site plan and community design review for a 696 square foot detached garage as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 19th, 2024, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Sam Walk. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approve.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis is abstaining, and Commissioner Drill.
Approved.
And the motion passes 5-0.
Thanks, everybody, for going through this. I know this was, I think this, everything presented very well, and we did hear some more of your concerns related to this. So thank you very much for everybody that made comments, that hopefully we can work together and see if we can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Very impressive.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to item B, which is 4 Pricemont Drive, a new single-family home. If anybody. Excuse me? Excuse me? If you don't mind, we got a meeting going on, so if you can go outside, that'd be great. Thank you.
So before you tonight is 4 Pricemont Drive. This is a new single-family home and it's subject to site plan, community design and concept stormwater management review. Is currently lot number 4 or addresses lot number 4 on the Price Lane subdivision, zone single-family residential. The lot dimensions are 13,045 square feet for the lot size. It's about 0.299 acres. The lot is deficient within lot width. Oh wait, not lot width. I am so sorry. Lot depth. Which makes it subject to site plan review and as well as the total square footage. So to be exempt from site plan review, you would have to have a lot area of 15,000 square feet and a lot depth of 150 square feet. So that makes it makes it subject to site plan review. The front yard setback is at 30 feet, which is platted by the subdivision. The side yard setback is at 12 feet, which is 12% of the 100 lot width. And then the rear yard setback is 25 feet, which is 20% of the lot depth. The concerns that came up for this property were just the adverse effects because of the adjacent properties due to the lot deficiencies, as well as the tree preservation and tree replacement. We did get an arborist report, but it's just how we would address the commission and how we would implement those replacement aspects of it. So right here is the 2 elevations for Pricemont, with the one up top being the front elevation that facing south towards the street, and the bottom one being the rear elevation. In terms of community design review, the only things that stood out to us were concerns just with tree preservation, just not really explicitly a concern, but just wanted to note that was there. We have the arborist report and wanted to speak on that, as well as I think that was mainly the only thing here. In terms of concept stormwater management, they are proposing a NDS flow well, or 2 cisterns in the front yard. All of the orange on there is where they're doing the PVC piping and how they'll pipe everything into that front yard. There is a significant grade drop. Well, it's not significant, but it's about, I think, 4 feet from where the front of the house is down to the street. And they propose a backyard PVC piping with catch basins as well, I think just to accommodate for any excess water that would be ending up in the backyard. From the site plan and stormwater information that we received, the calculations depict everything from the house as well as that covered porch that is to the north of that site plan right there. We got information pertaining to the adjacent homes as well. 3 Pricemont, which is located to the east, was built in 1940, and that home underwent construction for a kitchen renovation in 2001. And then 5 Pricemont, which is located to the west or to the left, was built in 1950. So these are some older homes, but in 2005, they had a retaining wall installed, and the home was also constructed additions. So these haven't been any new homes, but they have done some work prior to this item. And then you can see the streetscape also there. There are 2 streetscapes also indicated within your report. Pertaining to tree preservation, we did receive an arborist report. Out of the arborist report, 10 trees were assessed. 6 of the 10 were deemed to be removed due to demolition or due to the demo of the home, utilities, grading, as well as foundation. Sorry.
And those are the ones in green, right?
Yeah, the ones that are highlighted in green are what we got submitted for the to be removed. The ones that are in pink are preserved. And then the indication of the orange is the tree protection fence. There were 2 trees along, however, the 2 trees that are in the front, A and J, are in the front yard, and those are deemed to be removed. One is in fair condition, but located right next to the sanitary and water lateral locations. And then the other is a 38-inch mature tree in fair condition whose location is adjacent to the old driveway. So you can see that J is kind of already uprooting, growing near the driveway. So those are the reasons why we are asking that staff is just not in support of replacing like a tree 1-for-1, especially for those that are located within that buildable area. But then there's also, we are seeking guidance to impose a trees replacement policy based on the canopy. And of the trees that are solely out of the buildable area, the most significant tree being removed is the sweet gum, which is along the street. Staff suggests that the commission consider the developer submitting a landscape plan that at a minimum, the landscape provider suggests 2 medium-sized trees for the best root growth spread located within that front yard. And that Carlos and I had a discussion about that prior to the meeting, talking about that we would, like to see information pertaining on those trees based on how those roots will grow. Because if it's due to the stormwater system being located in the front yard, if we're, recommending 2 trees being placed in the front yard, it's got to be something that can grow there that won't have the roots spread out and, affect the utilities as well as the driveway and the stormwater system that's in place. Pertaining to that stormwater system as well, that they have those 2 improvements in addition, that the French drain system is noted in the rear property into the MSD system. Carlos, if you could go back to that one slide prior to this. That would be at the very top. They're connecting into that existing storm inlet, and then you're running a PVC pipe as well from the flow well into the existing manhole. For the proposed improvements, though, it's staff's opinion that the stormwater on the site grounds will be properly managed and designed to minimize the adverse effects to the adjacent properties. I think we have it. Mailings were sent out for this property. We hadn't gotten any comments or concerns regarding the new placement of the home, except I think there was one thing about construction on the road, whether the road is wide enough to house cars and construction occurring at the same time for Price Mont.
Jack, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any recommendations as far as canopy? I think you guys have been looking at a number of different communities, I have not been looking at that. So you know what I mean? So what have you guys?
As of right now, from staff's point, we've compiled all of the information from neighboring municipalities. So we've taken information from Clayton, Webster, Ladue, kind of seeing what all that they've been doing. And then I think our goal is to send that information out and provide that information to you guys so that then we can kind of all work together of finding the best way of addressing those concerns and how we would replace those. I think Carlos and I were talking about the canopy coverage, but we've noticed that a lot of places, different municipalities do it based off of canopy coverage as well as the caliper of the tree. The caliper really depends on, I think the caliper more focuses on what will be replaced. So if you take a tree out of this certain size, then you have to replace it with 2 trees or some sort of policy in that way. So I have that information of all of the municipalities, and we have a table of all of them kind of in like a short little answer that you can just reference quickly, and we can send that out to the PCDC committee so that you guys can have all that information.
Because we definitely need to get on that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I can send it out tomorrow.
Okay, good. Appreciate it. Thanks. Go ahead, Tim.
Is there anything else on that street that's been developed on the whole street? I know you said about the right or the left, but is there any other houses?
Yeah, number 1 has been.
Can you pull that up, Carlos?
Yes. Doing
Thank
so
you.
right now.
The gentleman behind me also said, I think he said 1 and 2. We also addressed, staff sent out a review to the developer and the petitioner talking about just different things that we caught, and you have that review email also within your packet that just kind of looks at different aspects, but all of those concerns that we had were addressed back with the revised plan set that they submitted that's in front of you currently.
And is this a 2-story? Not 2-story. The entrance, is that a 2-story height entrance? Am I looking at that right?
I would believe so. Just, yeah.
Wasn't that something that was one of the things that were highlighted on our guidelines to avoid? Am I dreaming that?
Not that I've seen,
Okay.
unless
No,
it's.
never mind.
That-
Never mind.
That jumped out to me.
It did?
Yeah, the 2-story
Yeah.
entrance.
There's been concerns in the past expressed by the commission on how they were designed in there. This one's a little bit different in there, but there has been some others in which we had a former member, was adamant about in terms of how high, and it was more of an arched aspect of it. This is a little bit more subtle, but it has been brought up in the past.
Okay. That's why I just wasn't sure if that was
Mhm.
part of our guidelines or, so.
Staff is also just seeking that on the site plan or on this depiction for the stormwater right here, you can see that that orange PVC piping is only going around 3 sides of the home. For clarification, everything within the calculations is being captured, and they do show downspouts on the elevations, the physical or the building construction plans. So staff is just asking that this is not the right printed staff report, but that they verify the downspout locations prior to submission, that they have those indicated on the plans, and that we are seeking verification that that would just be connected to that PVC pipe system that's already in play or that was proposed.
For the garage, where's the gutter? The
That's,
downspout for
I
the
think,
garage.
on the west elevation of the building construction plans, you can see that they have a downspout running on, I don't, I can.
Yeah.
And they're running those, but those were just not depicted, and within the site plan that we got. So we caught that, and then we were just saying that as a condition that they need to verify that
Okay.
and have that information
catch.
to us. Yep.
And Chairman, I'll note, what the server is indicating here is that the entire roof area that is going to the storage. So even though that there's those elevational changes here and here, they didn't show the gutters going in there, but the calculation is set that all that has to go into the detention pit.
Okay. Okay, so it'll be verified. Go ahead.
Couple of points. First, do you know the condition of this the existing house?
I think it's vacant right now. In terms of what do you mean by condition?
Is it habitable?
I would assume yeah, like currently, do people live there? I know that
No,
or
is it
habit.
habitable, not whether somebody's actually living there?
It's not in any violation.
Yeah, it's not in any violation.
Okay, so this goes back to comments I made last time, which is here we have a street and neighborhood where there are only 2 McMansions on the block, but all the other houses around there are single story, ranch style houses. And now we're going to take out another one to put in this. And I'm concerned that, we're just going to keep doing this without having a plan, so to speak. But putting that aside, if that house is in good condition, because I actually looked at the house that is number 2 on that block before it was torn down, and it was bad. It was really bad. So I am curious about the condition, but I do have concerns about now, how can we say that this massing is appropriate, given that the rest of the block, everything but 2 houses are all story ranch houses. That's the first point. Second point is your driveway now is going to be on your right side if you're facing the building. So taking out that tree because of that old driveway, it would be unnecessary. And I know everybody hates sweet gum trees, but that's a mature tree
But the utilities run right next to it as well.
on the other side of the driveway.
No, right next to where that existing tree is.
I'm talking about the tree
Oh, the
on the, if you're facing the house on the right side of the
Mhm.
driveway. So that driveway is going to go away.
Yes.
At tree J.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with taking out mature trees. And since this driveway is presumably going away, there's no reason to take that tree out. That's my second point.
Is there a utility by tree J?
On that site plan, it shows that the water and gas lines run right by it.
Can you pull that up?
Yes,
So
it-
she could see.
It should be on the dial.
No, that's by A, that's not by J.
Well, they've indicated on their arborist report that it's going to be in the way of the demolition of the house as well as utilities.
Okay, well,
How
You can get
big,
a report
well,
saying how big.
sometimes, but just relax, let's kind of go through this, okay? I mean, sometimes the tree canopy itself isn't shown exactly as it is on the drawing. So let's pull up the street view. Let's see if we can kind of take a look at the size of that tree.
Yeah, that should be, that picture I took when I visited the site. So that's a few days old.
When you demo this asphalt, this existing asphalt right here, that tree will go. It will be dead before they're done with construction.
Because of all the.
Because of all the roots and you're disturbing it. I mean, this thing's been in place for 50 years, hasn't been disturbed. All of a sudden, you're gonna take a tractor and go right next to it and rip down everything that it's put down.
And it's heavy, and it's gonna.
You're gonna hit it and you're gonna do stuff. I mean, whether we tell them to actually take out that tree or say leave it, it's gonna come down eventually.
Yeah.
I built my house. You can look at my house. I have a circular driveway on my house. I kept a tree just like this because I wanted it so bad in my house. Guess what? 2 years later, I was bringing it down. It would have been much better to bring it down before it. I would have designed my house differently if I wasn't waiting for that tree to come down.
Really? I don't think anybody here wants to tear down trees, you know, at least on this commission. But we do need to hear kind of what the impacts are for, you know, for this type of work and impact, you know, to the existing lot and size. As much as I would love to, you know, potentially save this house or whatever, we don't own it.
So demolition, sorry. So demolition is a matter of right in the city of Olivet?
Yes. Yes, it is. And that's a policy that's been adopted by the council. And I understand, you know, the intent and the content of that question. But then that is a policy choice that then the council needs to discuss and then direct to the commission on what direction it wants the community as a whole to go through. And we've had that discussion in there. And of course, things, you know, priorities change and values change in there. The intent of the residential redevelopment design guidelines was to provide the balance between and the mediation in there. And it's the role of the commission then to determine, you know, based on those guidelines, how to make this palatable or how to make it work in there. I think your comments about the house and its mass and all that are appropriate, you know, in there. And, you know, it should be forwarded to the architect, and this is a very good architect. In there is what did they incorporate to take that into consideration? I have a degree in architecture. I can articulate that for him, but I think that's his role in there. But you can clearly see the horizontal elements that have been incorporated into this design in there. Now, it's not my determination to determine, is that enough? Or are they highlighted enough in there? Or are there things like the double heighted entrance that distract from that? That is a discussion this commission should have with the architect.
If there's no other questions right now amongst the commission members with staff, then I think we should bring the petitioner up. Yeah. You guys want to come up? Remember to state your name and address for the record.
And turn on the microphone, please.
Thank you.
My name is Pavel Ivanchuk. I'm an architect. I live at 101 South Brent in Oakland. I'm ready to answer any questions.
Well, I think there's some concerns about
Regarding massing.
massing. Yeah. So if you could go through that, that'd be great.
Could I ask you to speak up so
Sure.
you picked up so?
Okay. Typically, we try to just have sloped roofs on the sides, not to have any gables facing to kind of soften the edges of the second floor. And it's kind of a device that I've been using routinely in this area for that to bring down the mass. And then just keeping the constraints of the program requirements from the developer and working within those parameters. I think the ceiling heights are fairly standard. They're 9 foot and 9 foot, so it's not exorbitant tall building. He does like double height entrances, and so that's kind of one of his requirements. And I mean, we do consider maybe putting an arch instead of a rectangular opening. So that's something we probably will do.
Okay. Sometimes I've seen you guys where you have like the lower level, it's wider. You know, so that way the roof kind of steps down a little bit more. And I'm not sure, I mean, see that like on the garage,
On the garage side,
side, but I don't see it necessarily anything over here. It's not that I want the house to get bigger
Right.
either. But is there anything that could be done?
I think the study in the front on the left is kind of stepping down the front, so maybe that elevation is a bit deceptive. I think from a perspective.
That's with the front roof. That's
Right.
there. Yeah. If anybody else shares any concerns or wants to direct, I'm not an architect. I'm an engineer, so.
Chairman, I'll note some of the things because again, we get the direction from the commission as we work with the developers team and designer on this, and what we look for based on, again, the context of the guidelines and what we hear from the commission, and the incorporation of the horizontal elements. This is not a prairie house, but it's pretty close to incorporating, the horizontalness in there. The other thing is the breaking up of the roof mass here to mimic that one-story house that was once there. And again, this is fluff words, but that's part of the design concept as it goes in. These are the lowest roof pitches that we get. Most of the time, and you saw it in this garage a while ago, that was 8 to 10, 12. These are about 412s or something like that. Their whole intent is to look horizontal.
Yes.
In there. The pop out of the access garage, because it's another garage. I mean, it is, but it breaks down and steps down with a neighbor on the east. And on the west, you see this one story pop out here. And then back in the back, you see this one story pop out here. But there is this 2-story match, but they bring that gable down in there. So we look at those in context, because what you see in paper and what you see in 3D are vastly different. This is tall, but when you see that it's winged and there is a component in there, there is a difference. This I can understand from the commission. I mean, it may be something that the petitioner, instead of, that all of a sudden you have this vertical, all these vertical lines, but here you have this crossbar here that maybe it needs to incorporate something in the middle to make this opening here look more horizontal, and to break that as opposed to being like one big vertical rectangle in there, or because and then it mimics but it's just it's a design element in there to help break that down, because we know that what's being identified here is that the front entrance is the exclamation point. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But then kind of make that exclamation point a little bit more subtle by adding some more horizontal elements into that process would probably help and alleviate some of the concerns, especially with the shade and shadowing that you see in that aspect. But I do think, I mean, when we go through these, and again, these will change over time, and we you guide us on how when we look at these, that roof pitch, that step approach is to acknowledge that it's against an older a home that doesn't have that same type of height. The same elements are incorporated here in there, and they have gotten better. There are some examples in which, I mean, the adjacent house did not take into any consideration what was next door, and you have roughly almost 4 levels of house: basement, the first floor, the second floor, and then the gabled roof right next to a neighbor in there. I'm happy and confident, this commission is going to get more, into the details, and that's great in there, because I think it leads to better architecture. But I think those elements are in there. I like the way he uses the materials, again, to spread the length of the house and the width in there. He's got these, the windows are put together to, again, to spread the width of the voids along the house. The siding, again, running, horizontal, again, spreads the length of the house, which then, again, as you spread the length, then the height becomes less and less. It's like elasticity or so in there. But, you know, that's how, when we do our analysis, is what we're looking for. I'm hearing that, you know, that I think the conversation's good, because I think things will change, and they're supposed to. And it's healthy to have that dialogue and look at things differently, or bring in fresh perspectives. And I don't mean, not pointing you out, Ms. Powell, but I think it is good for us. And ultimately, you know, like Mr. Pavel, you know, to hear that, because he is one of our consistent, better architects in terms of not trying to do the big, tall, you know, McMansion, you know,
Right.
in there. So,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the architecture lesson, Carlos. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments for the petition? Any other concerns or direction that we want to give for that center? Anybody? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, I think we want to wait until they come back and look at what they might do with that center part, or are you going to add something? Or I guess, what was the direction? I guess, where are we going with this?
It's up to the commission. If there
Okay.
if there is any,
If they wanted, I mean, if we approved it, that means they can't change it to an arch, Carlos?
no, you can do a couple of things. One is you can assign it to us to kind of make a decision on the commission's behalf with some guidance in there.
You know,
Or we can bring, they can, what they do to that elevation isn't going to substantially change them continuing into the next permitting site. And I apologize, I'm trying to pull up the plan set. I
That's
thought,
kind of where I leave.
Yes, I get it.
Leave it to staff.
I get it.
I think the arch really came about as a reaction to some of the sentiment expressed about softening that, but I think
Might change.
a more rectangular is more appropriate, I think, for the context, more of a modern
Agreed.
expression. So
I agree.
I think we're gonna keep it at.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, I would stay. Yeah.
All right.
Person's preference.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Any general, any public comments? Seeing none in the audience? Carlos, is there anybody else online?
I still have Mr. Whalen. I'm not sure if he would want to comment. David, if you want to speak, just show your hand regarding this item.
Okay, seeing no
One
other.
one more thing, because it's not very clear yet, and maybe it would be part of the discussion, is on the trees in there, and kind of go over what Jack had talked about in terms of our recommendation in there, and how we look at this. And again, this is fluid, and it's going to evolve as we're tackling this. But we looked at it that B, C, E, and G were just illy placed. I mean, it might have been great at that time in there, but they're in what the city's defined the buildable area in there. We do believe that there's that opportunity to preserve the H, F, and D if they put the proper fencing, and we're adding that as one of the conditions that they do that. They're not extremely significant trees, but D and F are pretty nice. The big ones are, and the nice species are right here, and that's unfortunate in there. And even if they could be, when you look at like A, even C and G, if they can be preserved, you know, while we're trying to protect them, insurance is trying to get rid of them, because they pose a risk being in that close proximity to whether it was the old house or the existing house. And those are decisions we're going to have to try to struggle through and go through in there. When you look at the canopy area here, and you look at what's happened to the properties next door, I mean, this is one of the, you know, the biggest canopy areas. But then the other thing is about half of that is sweet gums, and in the past, the commission has been lenient and wanting to get rid of sweet gums. We're starting to hear different input from residents about sweet gums, and I think Ms. Todd was here to talk about them, in there, if you recall, that they're good, healthy trees. They grow great, good canopies. You know, it's just the little balls that they drop in there that are annoying, but that they really do they grow quickly and provide a quick bloom, and that's why they were planted in there, and that might be something that, again, we may start looking at them differently, and that's okay. But at right now, they're always targeted as if you see them, remove them in there. I think we'll bring those to your attention again a little bit more. But at the end of the day, you know, given everything that's going in the front with the utilities, the stormwater pit, and all that, you know, it 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 would be difficult to make up all those trees in that front yard. I think they should provide at least two good trees which roots grow straight down, not wide, because I can't impact this pit in there. Should there be more? I'm not sure in there. You know, if they plant more in the back, that's great, but my concern is the public view, you know, and what is in the street side. And I think there's an opportunity to put two trees that are going to be hopefully, you know, like kind of you know, 5-10 years from now in there, and that they provide something that's visible. You know, they don't have to be massive, but something that has a presence in there. The other thing, you know, Jack and I talked about is like, well, you know, we keep pushing the term that this landscape plan in there, and what that does is that it's mostly like the low shrubbery, and it's useful with soils, but it doesn't relate with canopy. It does something different, and that's something we'll have to talk about more on, you know, which one are we trying to do? Is it looking at it from a canopy and preserving, you know, that shade and that the temperate that it provides to the environment, or is it about the soils and you know, natural landscaping and such, because that's not the same as canopy. And somewhere either there's a balance, or we'll have to figure out those two. I think they should do more than those two trees. I think they should provide a landscape plan, but I think at a minimum, two significant trees, you know, a good species, and the species, you know, the right species where the roots grow down as opposed to horizontal, would be appropriate in there. I'm open to the commission to considering more. It was just as we looked at this subjectively and what we saw, you know, we thought, you know, again, trying to plant here and here, you know, it just wouldn't have been as effective.
With the front flow well there, it makes it pretty challenging. You know, so I agree with you, with what you guys are talking about with the two, you know, that don't impact the flow well, provide a canopy, you know, like you said, in 5 years. They can't plant something that's gonna have a canopy now. I mean, it's impossible. So I think I like that idea. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Just have a general question.
Go ahead, Tim.
Just because I would know, the tree protection fence, so are they gonna have that, and then they're gonna have an orange fence that goes around the site on top of that? Is that what I'm looking at?
That would be the preference from our end, because I think it needs to be distinct. It needs to be clear that this fence represents a different demarcation than the construction fencing, and different than the siltation fencing in there. The other thing is, again, my staff are inspectors, they're building inspectors, and whether they got green thumbs or not, that wasn't what we hired them for in there. You know, having a distinct fencing that's color coded, it's a different type of material, just to make it explicitly clear what the intent and purpose is in there would be ideal in there.
Kind of think like what was done at Stacy Park when they were renovating that, and they, you know, had two distinct types of fencing that was being done. That I noticed that during, you know, that work at the park. So
Yeah, I'd like to make that part of
Yeah.
our.
that's already part of your
It's noted in the report.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion? If not, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve a petition for a site plan community design and concept storm management review for a new single-family home at 4 Pricemont Drive as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 19th, 2024, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Laura Ragsdale. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell,
Oppose.
Commissioner Wallach,
Opposed.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
and Commissioner Jagel.
Approved.
Okay, the motion passes 4-2.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to other business and item A and other business are meeting minutes. And I believe,
Oh, we didn't have any mini minutes prepared for tonight's meeting.
okay, no
Apologize.
meeting minutes. We'll move on to item B, the comprehensive plan update and code revisions.
One of the things we were hoping to discuss in there, but today kind of changed in focus as we started hearing from some of the residents. And there was talk about the tree reports, the tree canopy and what direction we're going with those. We need to get that in line. The two reports that we received, or the report that we received today, I think was a really good one. I think they were, it was easy, legible. In there, they identified the trees pretty well compared to the one that we saw in the previous one. And there, they identified the species. They gave their professional recommendation, and then there's, the health of the tree in there. Some of them do provide recommendations, but all providing like recommendations of what do you do with the trees that are there, but not in terms of direction, like what do you do with the canopy or the objective that you're trying to accomplish in there. If it's about planting more trees or increasing canopy, and in there, one of the interesting things, when I looked at this, let's go to the Google Maps. I think was in there, and it was kind of talked about, but you could see, which is the oldest house, and it's this one because everybody else is pretty much cleared out their trees, and it's number 4 and number 3 kind of still holding on in there, and most of those improvements have been probably just driveways. Because I know this is a new house, I think there's been additions to these, but I don't think it's been like a tear down type of construction in there. And when I looked at this, it's like, again, this was having nothing in place, and now this, I think, while it is, a great canopy and all that, it would be difficult to reimpose that into one of these here in there. And I guess I'm looking on the direction of the commission. It's like, where do I take that and all that? I shouldn't say it would be difficult. It's just I don't have the guidance of what I'm asking for from these developers of what we're trying to do in there. I don't think it's about just planting more trees. I think we need to be more specific about what trees. And then again, is it about, 1 for 1, or is it about we want better quality trees that are going to give us a better canopy, even if it's 1 for 5,
I mean, obviously we keep going back and forth on this, and I think it's a larger commission discussion, but I think we need to be open to all options, because to your point, there's no way they're gonna go 1 for 1 on that with quality trees. But we've talked before about maybe it's also then asking certain quality trees that get planted throughout all of that in other places. Is it perfect? No, but let's at least keep the growth. Let's keep the trees moving. Whether it's a park or whether it's another area, public space. I think that's a fair ask for new builders. If you're gonna be knocking down 10 trees and you're not gonna be able to put 10 trees up, let's put 10 trees elsewhere and let's dictate what those 10 trees are. So, and I think we need an arborist to kind of help us know, because we don't want to put trees that are invasive. We don't want to put trees that are gonna fall over in storms, because storms are coming. We don't want to put trees that are gonna disrupt sidewalks. So, I mean, I think having, and it might be worth talking to the city council about this, but having some funds spent on an arborist to kind of give us that guidance, I would have no problem in voting for something like that as an example, just one example. So,
Yeah, and it gets complicated with these
Yeah.
flow wells too.
I would
Yeah.
just offer, when I worked in Chesterfield, we had a comprehensive tree list and had an arborist on staff so that all plans kind of went through the city's arborist because,
Yeah.
it's too easy for, oh, we want to tear down all the trees and they're all bad. We don't want to have that happen. So I would have you look, they have a very complete, very detailed tree list that I think would be helpful here.
Good. I think we need, a lot of us aren't as educated as you are after you've gone through and started looking at this, so some of it, we're going to need to be informed, as well as kind of the different options we've talked about, the pros and cons for those types of things, what's the current trend going? It seems like the current trend seems to be going to the canopy as opposed to the caliber, type thing. But how do we kind of incorporate what Brian just suggested, with the one-to-one, aspect? I'm intrigued by that.
Mhm.
and it might be canopy versus number, but either equivalency somehow.
Yeah. I think that's pretty interesting, but I also think too, it's tough to have a brainstorming session to go through these when we have like a night like tonight,
Mhm.
But I think, we need to kind of get informed a little bit, about it. We're not arborists. We're kind of feeling our way. This is kind of something new. What you just showed us right here was very interesting,
I agree with that.
and enlightening to a lot of us, about it. So, I don't know if I don't know what the agenda looks like in the next couple, meetings that we have planned. But if we can carve out some time to kind of go through, what Jack, you were talking about, the different, the different municipalities, what they have. Maybe if we can get some other lists from other people, I think that would be at least a good starting point and a good time to kind of brainstorm together. But that's interesting, Brian. I like that idea.
So we'll pick up that information and we can get that distributed in there. I would assume they have it all online, so in there, and then look at some of the other communities and what they had. So
Great. Thank you. All right, reports. Carlos?
the one thing I noted, it's October and there are several observances in there. I think most specifically was Rosh Hashanah, and getting some guidance from the commission about that. The second night falls on Thursday.
I think that's a pretty big holiday. If I'm,
Yeah,
I don't think
dinner
we
that night.
should. What's that?
I have dinner that night.
Yeah. So I don't know if, I think we should cancel that one.
And at this point, we don't have any applications, that are set or pending. So we can, it was easier to accommodate, and then it gives us more time to put together some information
That'd be
for the
great.
next meeting, of course, subject to if anything else gets submitted. Yeah, one house. So, okay.
Very good.
Then bear with me here. I gotta find where yes. All right. Outside of that, just some quick updates. Well, I'm gonna let Don talk about uh, National Community Planning Month. And
October is National Community Planning Month. So Carlos asked me to look into what planning month is and I mean, what it's about, but what activities or how we could participate. And I came up with some good things. What really struck me as I was looking at this is it it's not, I mean, it's not, you know, a brand new thing. It has some history. If you could advance to the, let's see. I think that's, well, whatever reason, not really what I'm looking at. What are looking for when I began looking at what planning I think the next slide, yeah. It's to highlight good planning efforts. And what I thought a good activity for us would be to highlight our good planning efforts around town. And these things can be, you know, from the micro to the macro. I feel like the new trail through Warson Park has several best practices for stormwater mitigation, the bio basins, and things like that. Just that's one area of town where I can think of 7 good pins, you know, to drop. We have other locations throughout town that have significance. And while we can collect them, like I've done some work in collecting information on the free libraries, it is something that we can build through our ArcGIS software to collect that information. And so I would like to look to you all as our commissioners to collect, and you can take pictures, you can contribute to that. If you'd rather see that be more on something that staff does, you know, that's definitely something we can entertain. I really want to throw that up to you guys. But as we proceed forward with our comprehensive plan and all of the tenants that are outlined therein, we can showcase not just for externally, but internally what we have and where we have it. I would like to incorporate elements that we know and we don't know, but it would all relate back to not just, you know, the physical elements of stormwater mitigation, but also the tenets of equality, equity, as far as access to the like, so trails will be in there. Access to parks was one of our major tenets of the 20 or 06 plan. If you look at the trail systems that we have, like actual trails throughout town, you will see that, you know, we kind of checked that one off on the comprehensive plan list. So there was obviously a concentrated effort to do that. The free libraries are an equity issue, as it, you know, puts books in the community, and we don't know where they're all at. You can register, but it's a volunteer thing, you know, and not everybody wants their free library on the free library map. This would be hyper local. It would be, you know, in town. So I think it would be a nice idea. We also have a proclamation that will go and Carlos, I didn't know if we wanted if the proclamation was for city council or if that would just be for the commission.
It's for the council, so the council will recognize Community Planning Month for October in there, and that recognition is really a lot on what you as commission members contribute to our community and making good planning or sound planning decisions in there. So
By highlighting, you know, all of our attributes, I think that we have a great story to tell.
Absolutely.
And having your help, you know, the collector aspect of it, it's a great, or, you know, not just a way to spread out the work, but also get different perspectives on what is in town. Because we see it from one perspective and you see it from an entirely different one. So I want that perspective as well.
Sounds good.
And then just a couple of really quick updates
Oh, yeah.
on Olive Crossing. That Aldi's is moving quickly. It's almost, I know it's fully roofed and it's getting almost fully enclosed.
Wow.
And the sprinkler company was ready to start doing the fire sprinklers today. It was in there. So it's coming great. I like its placement by the street. I like the retaining wall. You see, well, is starting to pop up in there, and it's much more uh, it acknowledges more of that pedestrian level than our neighbor's wall down the road. No offense to our neighbor, it's different priorities. But I think that's, the level of detail, and that's again, as we get into community planning month, the attributes you guys bring in that, so when you get to, those specifics, there's a lot of detail that the commission provides that makes these places unique. Irvington Rhyme, they're scheduled to start up next month. We got applications for some street disconnections that are going to start going, but that should be moving quickly. Centennial Greenway, again, if you get an opportunity to go between Dealman and Morrison Park, it is a really neat trail, and it is a pretty nice visual back there that I think it's really neat.
Is it
Um,
officially open?
I don't believe that they've done that yet, but I
Okay.
totally.
So don't
it-
go there.
It is full,
But if you did,
Have to.
they're doing the side works,
Yeah.
so all the, pardon?
yeah, yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
And they have like 300 new plantings planned throughout that area. So
Did you
it,
take photos of that?
it's a pre-photo right now. I've taken.
the brewery equipment came in, and that's been long in coming. He's got it assembled, and we'll be sitting down with him when I come back to talk about how to get them in so they can start their brewing, and as they continue to do some of the tenant finishes in there. It takes about 60 days in there for that first brew. So he was pretty excited. A lot of this was delays more from the supply chain in there, but it looks cool in there. And then up at Domos, I was in there today meeting with them. Their hope is to give the tenant the keys on October 15th or by mid-October, and then they're going to do just some minor touch-ups in there. And so I don't got the exact date when he will open, but you can see yep, the signs were up and the sheetrock was in place in the tenant space, and it was coming around really neat, really cool in there. This is about 915 Dealman Road again. They're still doing some of the grade clearing in there. I think we'll be seeing those new two homes in the next 2 weeks in there, and I think that kind of covers it up. And then of course Don did put a schedule of community events. The big thing is the garage sale, the great clean out, harvest festival, and then don't forget about turkey trot.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Carlos. Appreciate it. Missy?
Thank you very much. What I have to report is that I did attend a municipal league executive board meeting today, and lo and behold, a gentleman from MSD was a presenter.
Really?
I will be having some conversations with the city manager and Bruce McGregor with regards to the tax revenues, MOCIs. Am I doing the right initials? For communities that said, we want that revenue, we want to decide how to spend that money.
Yeah.
There's some feedback, the money, current money funds go through the end of 2024. There's some communications I gotta have with the city manager with regards to information I got today about potential, what's gonna go down for the next round of the MOCIs for municipalities and what MSD would like to see with over 300, I think I didn't bring my paper and I don't want to quote the wrong monetary figure, but
A lot.
yeah, yeah. And they break it down into various ways they want to spend it and the percentage that would go to the municipalities. How do you want it based upon population or a competitive bidding, yada, 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 yada. But to me, what I really heard was, there's that potential risk of losing what we have. there's an effort with the water company to want to say, hey, yes, St. Louis County, you pay differently for your water than the rest of the state, but we want, equality across that board. We want to be able to have our water service to the entire state, and we want to increase your rates so that everybody is comparable. So there's been some utility, issues and conversations going on with the municipal league, and with regards to MSD, I will be following up with the city manager.
Fantastic.
And Bruce McGregor. I don't want us to. I don't want to use the word lose the funds, but I want to make sure that moving forward, the feedback that MSD hears is that we municipalities want to keep that tax funding resource and decide how we want to spend that money to the point of this issue tonight. I don't know whether it's monetary feasible, that we could do it alone, but as identified, this goes into Ladue. So, the conversation today was also, community sharing projects to help resolve something. And we don't really know what that impact does to Ladue, but the light bulb's been turned on, and conversation will be had, and we'll see what happens down the road.
Because whatever we do is just gonna go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm wondering, like we talked about, sometimes it's not a single house issue. Sometimes it's not a single neighborhood issue. And at this point, it seems to be going across two cities.
I can tell you all that I remember the day 20 some odd years ago that none of your houses were built that big and you weren't living in them yet. So yeah, and that's how long ago this water flow and retention and MSD and the lack of infrastructure really has been slowly creeping up to the level that for the last 8 years we've been asking for these retentions and other things to begin to try to mitigate that impact, because people are wanting larger homes.
Right.
And we are a much needed and loved community with older homes that potentially lead to tear downs. They do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so with that, yes, absolutely. The 21st of October, shredding, electronics. That's going to be, and it's just for a few hours. At Stacy Park.
Stacy Park's
Right.
weekend.
So
When is that? Next weekend?
October 21st. It's a
October
great outlet
21st.
cleanup,
Oh, the
shredding,
cleanup.
electronics.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I would note that the DEA drug take back is not involved in this clean out event, but is the following weekend.
Okay.
So that's just something and we don't have that on the list.
And again, the turkey trot, which is in its 11th year, the bells have been ordered, T-shirts have been ordered, and exciting things are happening.
Can you bring a preview shirt next time so we can see?
Sure, absolutely. I'll ask that once I believe it arrives. I was told the color's blue this year. So, with that, life goes on. I appreciate everything that you're doing. It is exciting. And so, have a great October. May we see you at the Halloween festival.
Very good.
May we see you in November.
Very
for
good.
the turkey trot. That's it.
There's no other further discussion? Do I hear any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll close the meeting at 9:14.
Thank you, Chairman.
Right. Yeah, we both,
Jack, this for 12. No problems with that. Jack had and those. Yeah, 12 with me. No issues with me.